Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's class. The course is our second class or second session in the series project management. And the last time we talked about a whole lot of things. We defined a lot of concepts. We talked about what a project is in our previous class. We said a project is a temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service, or result. And we said building things like bridges is a project, constructing a hospital is a project, maybe a 100-bed hospital is a project, dualizing the expressway, highway is a project, sinking a borehole is a project. All right. Those seem to be big projects, but there are smaller projects like planning a holiday trip, is a project, renovating a house, organizing a party, organizing a wedding. These are projects. We also said that the common characteristics of a project is that they are unique. They may look similar, but they are unique. And the objectives of the project can differentiate them from the start and the end date of the party, the duration, the time limits can differentiate projects from projects, even if they look similar. The activities in the project, the preparation, these are unique things that differentiate projects because all projects are unique. And we also mentioned the fact that projects could be tangible and intangible. We say tangible projects are like civil engineering project, hospital project, water borehole project. These are things that when you do them, you can touch them. So they are tangible. Milk manufacturing plant, urban playground, like in a school playground, you construct that. It's a project that is tangible. While we say intangible projects, like for example in Nigeria, is like the conduction of an election. It's a project, but you can't touch an election, all right? Conduction of something like organizing and executing something like a national census. It's a project, but you can't touch it. So that's an intangible project. Okay, we said the project objectives are like completion time, performance of the project, height should be, for example, all those things we talked about in our last time. We see some of the objective of the project is the budget and something like that. Okay, today we'll be talking about something different. Like I planned to. We'll be talking about project processes and the project team. Let me share my slides so that we can all be on the same page. Okay. Now this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about project definition, project processes, and the actors. These are what we're going to be talking about today. Now, what's the meaning of a project? Or can we just say, can we define project definition? Let's express what we mean by the meaning of project definition. Project definition is a process which seeks to describe a project from the idea stage to the stage when the project has been completed. So this is what we mean by project definition. All the information about the project is usually embodied in the definition of the project. Usually before a project starts, it must be properly defined so that the parties involved properly understand what their roles, what their functions, what their responsibilities are in such a project. So that is what we refer to as project definition. So project definition is a process which seeks to describe a project from the idea stage to the stage when the project has been completed. Now let's discuss a case. For example, the rehabilitation of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Let's see how project definition can be applied to this. Let us use a familiar case, because this project, I'm sure, may have been, I'm just using it as a tentative or hypothetical example, may have been awarded in the year 2015 by the federal government, and the federal government had decided to rehabilitate that particular Lagos-Ibadan expressway because of its terrible state. So the engineering firm, tentatively, is Julius Berger, and Julius Berger Nigeria was chosen as a competent firm to carry out the rehabilitation project because they can do the job and they've shown themselves to be competent. So we can describe the project by considering the various processes involved before the project was commissioned. You can't commission a project that you have not done. So what is the first process in the project definition for this particular rehabilitation of the expressway? The first process is, one, the federal government of Nigeria and the contractor will have to discuss. That's the first step in the process. Then the engineering design will be designed, will be discussed. Then the engineering calculations will be done. Then the purchase schedule will be drawn. Then the purchase order will be sent and ordered. And then the material received will be gotten. Now, once all this has been done, the next is to carry out the actual construction. Once you've done the actual construction, of course, you know it has to be monitored, it has to be supervised and evaluated at each stage. Then the commissioning of the project, once it is seen to have been constructed correctly, and then handed over to the federal government as a completed project. So this is the process of the project definition for that particular expressway. We have looked at a very simple case of a road rehabilitation project. So we will now deepen our knowledge by discussing the project cycle, how the project runs. So what is a project cycle? Project cycle tries to describe the various stages that are involved from the conception of a project idea to when the project is executed. So we try to understand the project cycle by looking at it from the perspective that it is really very important as a tool to enable us to get the total picture of a project. Let us now examine the various stages for a project cycle. The first stage is the idea stage. The second is the identification stage, the project identification stage. The third is the project evaluation stage. And the fourth is the project selection stage. And the fifth is the project execution stage. Let's start with the project idea stage. What happens at this stage? The project idea stage is the first stage of a project cycle. The idea about a project arises from a variety of sources within the marketplace. Because you know, sometimes you see people dress up and you have an idea of how to sew your dress. You go for a party, you have an idea of how your own wedding will be. You go for a party and then these ideas just flow, and the inspiration for ideas come from various places. So the idea about a project can arise from a variety of sources within the marketplace or the macroeconomic environment. New project ideas could originate from within an organization or from outside the organization. For example, in a public sector organization, it emanates mainly from the assigned roles of the relevant body. For instance, a rural farmers fertilizer distribution project is most likely to emanate from the State Ministry of Agriculture because that is what they do. They are in charge of agriculture. So that's where the idea can come from. State Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. The idea of a rural medical clinic is also likely to emanate from the Ministry of Health. All right. So in a private sector, project ideas could emanate from within the organization or from outside the organization. From within it, it could arise out of contact between salesmen and customers. And from outside, it could emanate when they try to execute projects, when they interact with competitors, when they are affected by the external environment. Okay, this is how ideas for projects can come or may arise. And that project idea stage is the first stage. The second stage is the project identification stage. After the project idea stage, the next stage is the project identification stage. The project identification stage consolidates the project idea stage. How does this happen? Of course, we know the project ideas are not actually useful except if they are clearly identified and put down in a systematic manner for further processing. A government agency may conceive the idea of poverty alleviation in a particular local government area, maybe in Niger State, in Bauchi State, maybe in Cross River State, whichever state. But you will realize that the concept of poverty alleviation covers a variety or a vast area of possible intervention. So apart from just simple coming up with poverty alleviation as a concept, the government agency should go ahead to identify the mode of intervention, because poverty alleviation project could be any of the following. It could be a rural women kunu making a workshop. It can start from there. It can also be a rural women microcredit scheme. These things, when executed, can alleviate poverty if they achieve their goals. It could also be a millet planting project. When executed, the rural populace or the rural women or the rural dwellers can plant millet and reap the harvest, and then poverty is alleviated. It could even be a microfinance scheme that gives loans, facilities to people at a cheap or without collateral, and so on and so forth. So the ramification of rural poverty alleviation in the rural area has several ramifications. So the idea stage is just the first stage, but identifying the project itself inside the idea and how it will go is step by step is done at the project identification stage. Now, we now have the project alleviation stage. When a project has been identified, the next step is to evaluate the project. Project evaluation involves the estimation of the cost for the project, the benefits of the project. So the cost is on one side, the benefits on the other side, and cost and benefits should be measured in terms of cash flow. It will be important here for us to understand that the estimation of cash flow of a project is a very difficult task. It is difficult in the sense that cash flow, which are likely to arise in the future, may be difficult to estimate, especially in an inflationary situation like we're experiencing now in Nigeria. You can give a project proposal, give a budget or the cash flow for a particular project, make a cash projection for a particular project to your client this week, and the project is meant to start by the end of the month. By the end of the month, all the cash flow or the cash prices you put for each item in your proposal has changed. So it brings or poses another kind of difficulty. In a public sector setup, other factors come into play. They come into play when evaluating a project. For example, the employment generation potential of a project may be taken into consideration when estimating the benefit of a project. Besides, political consideration may also come into play. Social consideration can also come into play when you are evaluating a project. So while you're evaluating the cash, you are evaluating the political implication, the social implication, and what have you. So this is what happens in the project evaluation stage. The next stage is the project selection stage. This stage is the stage just after evaluation, and next stage is project selection. And as we have mentioned, faced with every project is faced with an array of challenges. So, and they are all different in their unique ways. Like we said, every project is unique. They are different in their values. They are different in their words. They are different in those they are supposed to be affecting. So the budgetary consideration for each project should also be evaluated at the evaluation stage. And then at this stage, it comes to play because the project selection is done by presenting all the rudiments, the properties of each project. And of course, it's the top management's responsibility to carry out the project selection, having considering everything or all the variables around the project and it's that has been presented. So it's the top management that does that. In the selection of projects, top management usually consider the financial cost outlays involved in the project and match them with the benefits to be derived from such a project. So projects that add positive benefits to the community will or should be selected. All right. Then we have finally come to the stage of execution. The project execution stage is the final stage in the project cycle. After a project has been selected, it moves on to the execution stage. In most organizations, the responsibility for execution of project is vested on a project management team. And this team is raised by management or by the government, depending on who is executing. Now, the function of the project management team is to ensure that the budget for the project is actually spent on the project and that the project is completed on the schedule, because there always has a project schedule. So in an ideal organization, the project management team usually prepares a monthly or quarterly budget report on projects. This is important for project monitoring and control. If not, the project will not be delivered on schedule. Now let's discuss the team-based structure. In a very large organization, including a multinational, we come across situations where there are many teams within the organization. The teams may be created for various purposes. Okay, so let us briefly just discuss some examples of teams in a practical organization setting. To organize our thought, we shall define team-based structure as employee teams. Because you see, we have an organization and we have the marketing team, you have the production team, you have the think tank, you have just a very various kind of teams targeted in delivering delivering different kinds of function or targets. So each team will say they are employee teams. It is a design where work is structured for groups. The groups are then given authority and discretion over matters such as process improvement, service development, quality management, or even new product development. So team approach to management was developed mainly by Japanese companies like Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Sony, and a whole lot of these multinational companies. What we see today are giant Japanese companies or firms which control large segments of global trade as a result of team approach to management. Now, some concepts that relates to team-based structure are pure project teams, group dynamics, and team building, teamwork, communication within the team, project team, building goal interpersonal relations within the team. So this concept needs explanation. Let's see what they really mean. Let's explain them a bit so you understand their place in the project. Now, a pure project team is a specially constituted work group formed within the organization and given a special assignment or task. The assignment could be any of the following. One, installation of a new computer system, for example, design of a new product, for example, or design of a new service format or new process of doing something, for example. So this could be their assignment. Usually members of a pure project team are nominated to join the team based on certain criteria. A team leader or manager usually placed at the head of the team will specify these criteria. In most cases, after assignment has been completed, the team is disbanded. So a pure project team has specific assignments, and after that assignment has been executed, they are disbanded. Now, task force team. You may have heard the word task force here and there. Task force. Task force is created by top management to tackle or solve a major problem. In Nigeria or in the Nigerian setting, for example, we have witnessed the advent of one task force or the other. Most of us experience that maybe in government spaces when government wants to solve one particular problem. You say there's a menace of street hawking, there's a menace of street begging. They constitute a task force team to tackle that major problem. There was a task force on port decongestion sometime, maybe in Lagos, I think in Lagos, and they had a specific function to decongest the ports. Members of a task force are usually drawn from various organizations with a team leader as the head. Usually at the end of the assignment or when the task force loses focus, it is disbanded. So they are not permanent in nature. After the assignment has been executed, they are disbanded. The next is quality improvement team. Today, quality has become an issue that has taken the front line in business discussion. Most organizations are drawn heavily from the Japanese firms that have long imbibed quality as their watchword. All right. Now, in Nigeria today, total quality management has become an important issue, and many firms are setting up internal quality teams, specially empowered to address the ways to improve quality within the organization. Quality is targeting organizational product, quality targeting organizational service. So quality improvement team has a function to improve quality. Now, the next is group dynamics and team building. Recall that organizations grow out of the need for people to cooperate for the achievement of a set objective. Sometimes predefined set objectives, or most times predefined set objectives. The coming together is based on the fact that different people have different skills. That precisely explains briefly the origin of teams or groups. Although groups have been variously defined in the literature, we've talked about them again and again in our various, in several times we have met, and we've even talked about group today. Our working definition is that a group is a collection of two or more people who perceive themselves as a group, share a common interest, share a common goal, or a common norm, and a sense of belonging. They may have a leader. Invariably, the following can be seen as groups: a computer steering committee, a project launch committee. They are groups. Now, what is the purpose of groups? Particularly, organizations use groups or teams for the following purposes. One, to distribute work along clearly defined lines. For example, in a bank, you could find the energy group, the treasury group, and so the marketing group, and so on and so forth. Number two, you can use groups to monitor and control work. After a group has been formed, the group needs to be managed, and that is why every group or team should have a leader. Number three, for problem solving. At times, groups are used to solve organizational problems as they arise. Problems facing an organization are many. They may be major problems or minor problems. In most cases, when major problems arise, management can set up a team to look into the problem. Okay, so these are some of the purposes of groups. Now let's talk about the concept teamwork. Building project team is not just the end of the task ahead. Once you do that, the task is solved. No, once you build a project team, the task still continues. The most important task is how to build team spirit within that team. Like we said earlier, members of the team may come from various units or departments to join a particular team set up for a particular purpose at the head office of a particular organization. The critical task, and which is the duty of the team leader, is to ensure that the group members see themselves as members of a team and also work like a team. A typical example is a coach that puts the various players that he has bought from various teams, other teams, and brought them into his own team. With various team philosophy that they're coming with, his work is to ensure that they now imbibe his own team spirit and play for his team as one. Only in that instance can they achieve the football club's objective of winning a trophy. That's teamwork. Let's talk about things required for team members to perform as team players. If members of a team are to perform as team players and work towards the team's objectives, there are certain things that should be present in the team. And one of it is one unit goal. The second is group cohesiveness and support. The third is team spirit. The fourth is higher expectations, and the fifth is willingness. Every team requires members, that is actually requiring their members to perform as team players, must first teach them what they mean by one unit goal. It's important that every member of the team perfectly understand the goals and the objective of that team. Every action of each member must be directed towards the achievement of the objective of that team. And that is what we call one unit goal. The second, which we call group cohesiveness and support. For every team member to perform as a team player, it is required that a group is made up of people that have different, it is required that the group that is made up of people from different walks of life, from different, with different qualities and characteristics must have this group cohesiveness and support. So a good group is one which there is that cohesiveness. And what is this cohesiveness we are talking about? This cohesiveness binds the group together and makes them act in one direction and towards the same objectives. And once they can work in that manner, we can say they are cohesive because they are working like one unit. Now, the team spirit. Every individual spirit is not the same as team spirit. One, Mr. A may want to go and eat, while Mr. B may want to go and sleep. That is individual spirit. That's what they want. So individual spirit is not the same as team spirit. Team spirit is based on group affinity and affection amongst members. Team spirit makes an individual member imbibe the spirit of a group and behave like the group. When they work like this, they work like team players. Now, higher expectation, what does that mean? There must be high expectation among the various members of the team. For example, when you form a 5-man football team to represent Nigeria, maybe in a tournament, each team member usually will have high expectation arising from team dynamics and spirit, because the goal is driving each person, and each of them have that expectation that once we go with this goal, we will achieve it if we put in our best. The fifth is willingness. Team members must be willing to be members of the team, because if you're not a willing member of a team, you will not work and function in a manner to bring the set objective of that team to come to pass. You will jeopardize it by having your own individual spirit, and individual spirit kills team spirit. All right? They should not be unwilling members, because if they are, they will be frustrated, and this will affect the team as a whole. Okay, let's talk about communication within a project team. Communication within a project team. What do we mean by that? Communication is the process of exchanging information between one person or another, or between one person and a group of persons. Communication can also convey knowledge or information about a subject matter. Communication is all about sharing information. Generally, in a team situation, there is a need for effective communication among the members. The importance of communication is that it is the lifeblood of an organization, and by implication, the team. Now, communication is also referred to as a process. That process that assists management to function and to accomplish. Communication enables team leaders to communicate with other members of the team, and also enable other members of the team to communicate with the team leader. So communication is very important in a project team. What are the lines of communication in a project team? We have 3 lines of communication. We have the vertical communication, we have the horizontal communication, and we have the external communication. What does vertical communication mean? Vertical communication within the project team could be from the team leader to subordinates. That is up, down. Between the team leader to subordinate, or from the subordinate to the team leader. All right? So vertical communication assists in passing information on policies and provides feedback mechanism through which the staff responds to communication. Now, horizontal communication, what does that mean? In a project team, communication can flow horizontally across staff at the same level in the project team. Those at the same level. It could be communication to all the managers, managers to managers across managers, so at the same level in that team or at the same level, all right? So that's horizontal communication. It is very, very important. Like we say as teachers in class, when we come to class, we encourage vertical communication where the teacher speaks to the students speak back to the teacher. But in the course of the teaching in the class, horizontal communication occurs. How? You ask students some question. What is this? What is inflation? What is this? What is that? You call one person because others are afraid that if this person doesn't get the answer, they will be the next to be called upon to answer. They start whispering the answer to themselves. That whispering, they whisper to each other, is vertical communication. Sorry, horizontal communication, because they are communicating at the same level. They're not communicating to the teacher, but they are communicating to themselves. The same thing, managers can communicate to managers. They can bring communication to all managers, and that is on the same level. And that's what we refer to as horizontal communication. Then we have external communication. Within a project team, external communication is a situation where the team or group exchange information with the larger organization. For example, when a team leader reports progress to the managing director, we regard the information as a form of external communication, as it is outside the team. So when you take information within the team and you express it or relay it to someone outside the team, we say that is external communication. Okay, now let's talk about building good interpersonal relationship within or relations within the team. An organization may possess enormous capacity, good organizational structure, highly trained manpower could be part of the organizational capacity. All right. So even enormous capital can be part of the organizational capacity. But if the staff do not relate properly to one another, then problems may likely occur frequently and retard the corporate performance of such an organization. And so it is with a team. We've discussed earlier that a team can be made up of people from different units and backgrounds. It is therefore very important that at all times, managers should be aware of the need to build and maintain good personal relationships with their subordinates, their bosses, and peers within the organization or within their team. This is quite important. Let us put this explanation quite simply. Interpersonal relationship or relations are the way and manner people get along with one another. It could be the relationship between one person and another, or between one group of persons, e.g. maybe the staff, and another group of persons, those in the top management level. If people are friendly and understanding, then good interpersonal relations develop, and good interpersonal relationship will develop, and every person or everyone performs his or her task properly. So building good interpersonal relationship within a team is quite important. Now, what is the effects of poor interpersonal relations? The first effect is that you will observe that tension will exist between staff and other fellow staff. Between staff and other fellow staff, because there is no proper interpersonal relationship in a team. The second is the tension between staff and management. Staff and management. Then you also observe that tension will be amongst management staff. There's no cooperation and poor communication is existing, and that can build poor interpersonal relations at that level. Then we also observe unhealthy internal rivalry between all staff. People are struggling for this and struggling for that. Then we have industrial misery and hostility. Then we see things like strikes, strike actions, they'll be existing because there is industrial unrest. Then we have corruption. Corruption can rear its head as one of the effects of poor interpersonal relations. Then we have general dishonesty because people are not communicating properly. You observe dishonesty. Then crime in the workplace. Then loyalty to the organization ultimately. And all these put together definitely will reduce or impede the performance of the organization. In a situation where there is no good interpersonal relations, obviously the productivity is lowered, and this gives rise to low earnings for the organization. Ultimately, people may be sacked once earning and productivity keeps dropping. Now, there are principles that guide interpersonal relations. Let's highlight some of them. So one of the principles that guide interpersonal relations is the act. That is to act like a member of a team. Once you act like a member of a team, you definitely are building interpersonal relations. Do not let personal interests affect that of the organization. Organizational interest, the team's interest should supersede personal interest. That's one of the principles. And that principle is that remember that other staff come from different backgrounds and will at different times or at times behave differently from your own expectation. Another is learn to be accommodative. Learn to be accommodative. People are not all on the same level. Now, the next is keep your boss informed of your movement at all times. This is a principle of interpersonal relations. The next is avoid gossip in the workplace. It tends to tarnish image and build distrust. The next is display a positive attitude to your job. A positive attitude is infectious. It tends to affect others. Be friendly and cooperative. Everyone loves people that are friendly and cooperative. Then treat your subordinates with respect if you are the boss. The next is to stick to the chain of command and then learn to wear a smile on your face, always. A face that is always smiling is approachable. And once you're approachable, interpersonal relations can exist. Now, another principle of interpersonal relationship is to show interest in other people's problems. If you are empathic, you show empathy, you build interpersonal relations. Always learn to say thank you when something or someone has done you or done what he's supposed to do or performed an act. Avoid aggressive behavior. It is a trigger. Always learn to apologize where you are wrong. Greet people in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. It always improves interpersonal relations. Be polite. Be respectful. Be honest. Be responsive. Show good hygiene. If you, both managers at manager level, employee, team members can imbibe these principles of interpersonal relations, of course, the team objective will be achieved, coupled with achieving other things that may be variables to achieving that goals. So in conclusion, today we have attempted to explain project definition process, project cycle, the mechanisms of project team building, and we try to discuss the dynamics of the project team. So that's about it for today. So thank you guys for listening. And now it's time to take your questions. If you have a question, you can ask your question at this point. Send it as a chat or simply unmute yourself and ask the question. I will take it. So what are those with me today? Doris, do you have a question? I can see you putting up your hand. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. I will take it. Okay, you put down your hand. All right. In the absence of any other question, I hope you don't have any. If you have any, you can ask. You can ask. Please ask your question. I'm about to shut down. Okay. Okay, I can see something here. Okay, Doris doesn't have any question for me. All right, thank you very much for today, for joining today's session. I look forward to seeing more of you in my next class.